So this is how it starts. I get to talk first again.
Is it the beginning?
We've been recording for about 8 seconds.
Oh.
Okay.
Welcome to the Broker Loaded Podcast, Episode 6. My name is Kurt Studley.
My name is Dan Grimes.
I thought it was Paul Bunyan. I thought it was maybe Mufferaw Joe.
Obviously referencing my outfit that I'm wearing today.
Oh, yes.
Well, you didn't call me Elmer, but
Not yet.
I warned you that I was going to be wearing something in line with
Well,
our topic today.
Yeah, but you told me I thought it was going to be more Christmassy, but maybe this is your idea of...
Well, this isn't our Christmas broadcast.
No, I suppose it's...
We have to do one more before.
The Broker Loaded Podcast is a podcast all about real estate. We talk about issues in real estate. We talk about buyers, sellers, real estate agents, brokerages. We
Everything.
just generally talk about real estate. That's why we're here.
And today we're going to be talking about something that might be on everybody's wish list for Christmas. Is
It's
a
funny.
cottage.
It's funny. I how do you like my hair, by the way? It's fantastic. I know. I just got my hair cut before this podcast, and the guy who was cutting my hair was like, "Oh, what about cottages?" So
What about cottages?
cottages for Christmas, everybody.
It's a nice haircut, by the way. I
Thank
didn't
you.
get that.
Thank
want
you.
Shout
I
out
got
to
it.
the guy who cut
Yeah,
it.
uppercuts in Bell's Corners. Alex is the guy. He's one of the co-owners. Great guy. Great little shop. Local.
Local.
Get your hair cut local.
Perfect.
Listen, before we go any further,
Yep.
I'm so excited and feeling good today because
Hair like that, I would too.
exactly, and it's all mine, by the way. Not all my teeth, but all my hair. We're going to talk about cottages today. You got your outfit on.
I'm wearing a cod, but some would think it's
You're a lumberjack, and you're okay.
because I'm doing nothing but stacking and cutting wood for the winter that
Because
I hope
you have a
starts
cottage.
soon.
But what makes me I feel like I'm at a cottage right now because Dan Grimes has what's this beautiful candle. If I had my glasses on, I could read it, but it does say Lakeside.
Lakeside.
Now, where did this candle come from? I believe it's you bought local. I believe.
I bought local, so I get to shout out.
Yes.
Give me that because I forget the name of the company.
Oh, well, can you read it? Oh, there's a pair of glasses.
Yes, I can. The company is called Northern Rose, and I'm a bit of a candle guy. I admit it, not ashamed. They
Nothing
operate.
wrong with that, Dan.
No, they operate in Stittsville.
Right?
Those are blue glasses, by the way. They'll do absolutely no help in you reading anything. So maybe we'll try. These are the magnifiers. So they operate out of Stittsville. I don't know them personally, but a friend of mine posted something on Facebook, so I thought I'd give it a shot.
Right.
Woodwick.
Yeah.
So there is a bit of a crackle.
Yes, there is.
And they're made out of some organic.
Can I see?
Yeah, sure. And they deliver to your door.
Northern Rose. This one is Lakeside. Driftwood juniper incense. Natural soy wax candle. Oh, Jesus.
Natural soy wax.
Natural soy wax candle.
So I don't believe it'll line your lungs like commercial candles.
It smells delicious.
It is good.
I wonder we'll pause for a minute to see if you can actually hear it.
You got to hear that crackle.
Can you hear that? Just quiet over there. It's marvelous.
If you close your eyes, you're at the lake.
You're at the lake.
You're at the lake.
Speaking of the lake, over my right shoulder is Welcome to the Red Shed. That's a new addition to the set here at the Broker Loaded Podcast.
Yep.
And that is in reference to, I believe it is in reference to your cottage.
We have a guest cabin, and somebody who was
guest
up there-
cabin?
We have a guest cabin.
I would
It's
know that
called-
if I was ever a guest.
Oh boy, I'll tell you. It's there for your use. If you can use a good old-fashioned insulated heated outhouse, this will be the last winter for the outhouse, by the way.
So it's the Red Shed is part of your complex?
It is, and kind of a cause close to my heart because we allow women or families that are going through chemo
Yes.
to go up to the Red Shed
Right.
and spend a couple of nights during the summer up there, generally Monday or Tuesdays. And if they're adventurous in the winter, we'll let them go up if they like snowshoeing or
Right.
cross-country skiing.
Right.
30 minutes from Mont Ste. Marie if they want a downhill.
Right.
Or if they just want to get away from it all and just enjoy nature and a warm, cozy cabin and a
You
big
just-
outdoor fire.
You just let them use it.
No
That's-
charge.
That's the kind of guy you are.
No charge.
I like that. That's great.
Oh.
That's fantastic.
We'll get into that down the road.
Okay.
We all have our causes.
Now, yes, we do. Now, your cottage, your retreat,
Yes.
as it were,
Yep.
is on the other side of the Quebec border.
Some refer to it to the dark side if you grew up here.
Oh, is that right?
Yep. We call the Quebec side the dark side. It's a term of endearment.
Why?
It's a term of endearment. But,
Yeah.
you know, we're both of the age where it wasn't always safe to go out to Hull after midnight. But we're talking, my cottage is up in the Gracefield area. So people from Ottawa know that area. It's straight up the historical 105.
Yes.
Generally Irish descent from way back in the mid 1800s. So anybody who goes up that way knows Wakefield up to Cajabajwa and Mont Ste. Marie. So the popular lakes up there.
Right.
The big lakes would be Blue Sea Lake, 31 Mile Lake, Pemashanga. I'm on a smaller lake right next to Blue Sea.
What's the name of your lake, Dan?
Lac Castor Blanc, Kurt. White Beaver Lake.
White Beaver Lake.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yep. Still trying to figure out who was smoking what when they named that lake. But I haven't been up there long enough to discover.
Maybe
the
they
reason.
saw a white beaver. It's possible.
Possibly.
You never know
Possibly.
what you're going to see in the wild.
No.
So,
Yeah.
tell me about your property then. It's got a couple of structures on it. It's on the water. Yeah.
It's 135 feet of shoreline, about 20 minutes from the Metro in Gracefield. Easy access, year-round access.
Right.
3-season cottage.
Are we sponsored by Metro by chance?
Not
Not yet, eh?
Not yet.
Okay.
I might want to point out we're not sponsored by anybody.
We're not. We sponsor
We
ourselves.
sponsor ourselves and we give shout-outs to people that we feel are worth doing business.
Like local candle makers and
Candle maker.
hairstylists.
And they're in Bell's Corners, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
Uppercuts.
Oh, uppercuts in Bell's
Uppercuts.
Corners.
Yeah.
Fine haircut.
It is. $30,
That's not bad.
right?
That's not bad.
Get the fade. That's the latest.
Little old for a fade, but it looks good.
What'd you say?
I know, it's that. It just happened. I haven't seen anybody over the age of 30 with a fade, but it looks really good on you and suits you.
A little old for a fade. is
My
what
son's
I heard.
18 years old. He went through his fade stage about 3 years ago.
Oh. I guess I'm still in my fade stage.
I'm trying to think of something a little humorous to say about the
I
haircut.
could be a
but
police
it's
officer.
a good haircut.
Yeah, it is. I could be a police officer. Right? You know?
UFC fighter.
I got a square head.
UFC.
Could be a UFC fighter. No.
You would think he's training for the UFC because those of you who don't notice or haven't noticed since our first podcast, my co-host here is down over 40 pounds and he's doing it the right way. We
Yes.
should have a show on that.
Okay,
Or on that
we'll
day.
do that in the new year because that's the time of year people do that. But
Yeah. So cottages. So I kind of threw it out there a couple of weeks ago, maybe podcast number 4, that it's still a reality to buy a cottage, at least on the Quebec side, and we're in close proximity, within 90 minutes from our city for under $200,000.
What?
Very doable.
Come on.
Very, very doable.
Come on.
I was forwarded a cottage up in Bouchette, which is just 20 minutes down the road, legal water access 100 feet away, and they were asking $89,900 and a
What
local
was on
Ottawa
it?
realtor. It was a nice A-frame chalet that needed work.
Yeah.
That needed work.
That's one of the questions that
Yeah.
popped into my head when we were talking about a cottage for Christmas. And
Yeah.
I think that should be the name of this episode, don't you think?
Cottage for Christmas.
A cottage for Christmas.
Memories made.
Ooh. My thought was what's the definition of a cottage? Because it means different things to different people.
Yeah, it does. Well, I was fortunate enough to grow up at a cottage in the Chelsea area, Kingsmere.
Right.
Kingsmere Lake, actually.
Beautiful area.
I'll say hello to Jimmy Kite because he's up there now.
Jimmy?
Full time. He is.
God bless him.
He is. Post pictures. He's an early riser. The sun coming up on a weekly basis. A traditional cottage to me, in my mind, certainly one for in the price range that we're talking about, would be a 3-season cottage.
Yes.
Meaning you're using it for, you're getting up there in late spring and you're turning the water off towards the end of October and you're wrapping it up until the following spring.
So by 3-season, we mean spring, summer, and fall.
That's right. That's right. Which are beautiful seasons to be up at. I happen to like winter. Winter's probably my favorite season up there because there's lots to do and I enjoy fires.
Right.
But generally a 3-season, when I'm talking under 200,000 in the market that I'm aware of, and I've had places from Val-des-Monts right up now to Gracefield, a 3-season cottage, generally it's not insulated that well. I'm referring to something that's on pier foundations, so maybe an 800 square foot cottage supported by 8 piers underneath, easy
Right.
access.
Right.
Mine it needed a lot of work. I benefited, though, by the location of both of the buildings, the guest cabin, now the red shed's about 12 feet from the water,
Right.
as is the cottage. And the cottage is just under 600 square feet.
Okay.
It was purchased for under $100,000, well under $100,000. And
That was a couple years ago, though.
2.5 years ago.
Okay.
You wouldn't buy it,
You couldn't
even
get
in the
it
state
now.
I bought it. No. I had a great realtor who, gave me the opportunity really before it went out anywhere. And I did
That
have to
helps.
learn.
Yeah.
I will say I had some basic skills, carpentry skills, so I was able to at least labor stuff, gut the place, pull out all the insulation that you can expect was full of all kinds of mouse stuff after 50 years. But good value.
Right.
We renovated the guest cabin right away to have a place to stay in while we were working on the main cottage. And my kids have enjoyed it. My son, great fishing on the lake. And really, it's 90 minutes from my front door.
Can you swim in boat and all do that?
It's actually, will you see it? The water is crystal clear. A dock you can dive off of.
Actually,
so
that's
it's
my
not a-
Christmas wish is an invitation to go to a cottage for Christmas.
It's got a lockbox on it. I'm sure you know how to use it. And 4 cords of firewood that the guy dumped at the top of my laneway
Right.
that had to be carried down.
He didn't bring it all the way down?
No, he didn't.
Okay.
Thought he
So,
was doing me a favor.
listen.
Yeah.
Good job for you. You got a cottage under 100 grand, but that was a couple years ago. So, you can find a cottage on the water for under 200 grand on the Quebec side. Is that correct?
100%. As a matter of fact, I checked today, and just up in my area between low Quebec. So most people know when I talk about the 105, they know the highway. It's You
Yes.
take the 5 to get into Wakefield, you jump on the 105, and it takes you
Toward
right up
Mont-Saint-Marie.
the Mont Saint Marie Ski
Yeah.
Resort.
Yeah.
Sure.
Which is what I know.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Okay.
I'm just 20 minutes past the turnoff to
Okay.
Mont Saint Marie.
Okay. That's fine. That's fine.
So in checking, preparing for this podcast, with little effort, I found over half a dozen cottages with waterfront, not legal access, not a right of way, with waterfront for under 200,000.
Okay.
And one for under 100, but you had to drive an extra 30 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But not everybody wants to buy a property on the Quebec side. And
No, of course not.
And by the way, neither one of us can sell properties on the Quebec side.
That's right.
We can help you if you're interested in doing that, in hooking you up with a realtor and helping you find what you're looking for. But a lot of people on this side of the river want to stay on this side of the river.
They're married to this side of the river. And I looked this morning. So if you come over to Ontario, most of the prices that you hear are up on the Big Rideau or lakes in that area, the higher, and it's a higher end product.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not uncommon for people to pay 800,000, 900,000 for a property up on the Big Rito, and it's a tear down.
Right.
They're tearing it down and they're rebuilding.
Right. I've seen some things earlier this year on a boat tour of the area.
Yep.
And it's $1 million for anything, right?
Yeah,
anything
for sure.
done up and,
For sure.
and buttoned up and ready to go.
Yeah, but I also had friends. There's a lake, Audie Lake,
And again, it all depends on your definition of what a cottage is to you.
I'm not talking about homes. I'm not talking about a cottage. When people refer to their cottage and they've built a 2,500 square foot 2-story home, that's a year-round residence. That's a house.
Okay.
I like knowing that my mind is being transported to a cottage that I walk into, easy to maintain, nice little wood stove that'll heat up the whole place, get cozy, and I benefit from having that guest cabin. It's 2 separate living spaces.
Right.
For
But
2
what can I do on the Ontario side is the question versus going elsewhere when I'm looking for a cottage. Let's use your definition of a cottage, which is similar to your place, right?
Okay.
What can I do there? Because it's different on the Ontario side.
Well, I think the lock on the Big Rito or the Lower Rito is called Palamuo or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that lock or that part of the canal takes you right into Perth.
Right.
Now, I am somewhat familiar, and that long streak of a nephew of mine has, he grew
my
up.
broker, is that who you're talking
That's
about?
right. He grew up at a cottage on Audie Lake. And I know that I had friends looking up at Audie this summer, and they were able to look at 2 places on Audie that were in the $400,000 range. And that's literally just a 10 or 15-minute drive, depending on what side of the lake you're on, from Perth.
Yes, and I was up in that area with a client not so long ago at the end of the summer.
Yeah.
And we were able to secure them a cottage, and it's definitely a cottage, but it's well put together.
Right.
Took some steps to get down to the lake, to the water.
That's the one side of Audie. That's the one
Yeah,
Kevin
it wasn't.
would be.
I don't think it's Audie.
Okay.
But this was another example of you had to go down.
Sure.
So it was up top, a beautiful view of the lake.
Mm-hmm.
But you had to go down to the water, and my clients were quite happy to do that. There was an area to put your boats and your business in the dock and so on and so forth.
Perfect.
And we expected, the place was listed, I think, at $375. Real nice cottage. Like, it's a cottage, full kitchen, bathroom, plumbing, the whole works. We expected that we'd be in competition for this cottage. As it turns out, we were not, and managed to secure it for under $400,000. So I guess the point is that is certainly possible.
Oh, no, it's possible. It depends on your
Because the
expectations.
I think the perception is with a lot of people that it's going to take a lot more than that.
Well, yeah, because we always talk. It's like we mentioned in, I don't know, the podcast 2 or 3. People always talk about the home in the city or the townhome that was listed for $550 and sold for $750 or $800,000. They talk about, like I just did, going up to the Big Rito and expecting to pay $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 for a cottage, a lakefront property that you're going to tear down.
Right.
But in reality, there are a lot of nice recreational properties. And by the way, I have no problem even paying less money if it's a property that has legal access or a legal right of way to the lakefront. It's not the best situation.
Right.
But I have to tell you, if, like me, you're a 4-season guy and you enjoy the winter.
Okay. Then I have some questions.
But I have one more comment about that, having the legal. Does it really matter if you have access to a lake, if you enjoy going up and putting a wood stove on in the winter and snowshoeing or cross-country skiing?
No, but for, I would say, the majority of people who would like to invest in that sort of thing, the idea of water access and having water connected to your property, waterfront,
Yep.
is very attractive and something they desire,
For sure.
right?
Yeah.
But I can still get that. I can still get that and not pay that $750 or even $600,000.
No, that's what I mean,
Right.
you're just.
Now, you brought up some interesting points.
Yeah.
And I think it would be wise of us to talk about some of those things. You talk about right-of-ways and legal access and all that sort of thing. What, in your opinion, Dan, is the is the right way to go when it comes to if I'm buying a property? Should I have legal access? Should I have right-of-way? What should I have?
Well, if you're buying a property, ideally you want to buy your own lakefront.
Right.
My suggestion is, though, if you're not in that 200,000 or under on that side, or the 400,000 here,
Right.
I'm just suggesting another option that will give you lake access would be a property. An example would be a cottage that's on lakeside, and right across the road from you is a cottage that has a legal right-of-way or legal access to a portion of that lake. Usually it's in the form of a public launch on that road.
Right.
So a spot, many of them, they have docking facilities for
Okay,
your boat.
but I'm a buyer
Yep.
who wants a cottage, and I want to make sure that I'm on the water.
Well, then I'm going to sell you one that has
What? Legal access or right of way or both?
waterfront.
Just
Waterfront
simply
property.
waterfront.
Waterfront. Sure.
Okay.
There's my dock. There's where my boat is.
Right.
That's where my wharf, et cetera, et cetera.
I like that.
Ideally, you want to buy waterfront,
Straight up
straight up.
waterfront.
Yep.
But there are options.
Oh, there's lots of options.
If that's if you're not super concerned about it or it's not within reach in terms of budget, you can work your way around getting to the water.
Yeah, legally,
Yeah, without issue.
and the deed will have in the deed it'll say you have legal access, and it'll define where that. It's usually
Should be
a
if you're
path.
looking at a listing too. It would indicate such.
Yeah, the listings in Ontario always say deeded access
Right.
if they're not.
Which is different
on
from
the water.
waterfront.
Yeah, no, of course,
Well, that's important.
but
To
up
me.
to 50% less to buy
In terms of
Oh, yeah.
cash outlay.
for sure.
Right.
I mean, the place that pay 500,000 for, that has waterfront, let's say 100 feet of waterfront, your own dock, whatever. If there's one across the street where your kids have to walk, 200 feet to go to the kind of the public dock, the legal dock. Well, if they paid 500, you're likely going to spend $300 to $350
Right.
to walk 200 feet.
Right. And that gives you all kinds of access. I mean, if the lake you're on allows motorized boats, you
Yep.
can certainly put your boat in there,
Sure.
and it's nearby,
Oh.
so that's not an issue. You can take your kayaks, your canoes, your what have you, and get in there.
See, my kids, when they were younger, would be happy with that situation because I, in all likelihood, would have a pontoon. They'd get in the pontoon, as kids do.
Yep.
They'd be out all day on the lake. They're literally driving their dock around, going to the local cliff to jump off of,
Right.
the fishing hole.
Right.
It's fair. And the extra equity that people have accumulated in their homes over the last 2 years, I would rather own. Many people are refinancing their homes to put a $100,000 pool in the backyard.
Some people see that as their cottage, though. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I grew
It's
up with
their
a
oasis,
pool. I
right?
grew up with one.
I want a pool.
Yeah.
Well, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a bungalow, but that's another story.
Well, you'll get there. Yeah. We're going to become wealthy doing
Now-
this podcast.
Now, yeah, there's no question about that.
Millions of
Through our
watching.
various sponsorships. By the way, you're watching the Broker Loaded podcast.
Yeah.
I'm Kurt Studley. He's Dan Grimes. We're talking about real estate on this podcast. This is episode 6,
Yes.
A Cottage for Christmas. So I've written my letter to Santa.
Okay.
Dan. And I understand that I could get something 200 grand or under on the Quebec side, but that's not what I want. That's not what I put in my letter.
Okay.
I put that I wanted to be on the Ontario side,
That's fine.
right?
Yep.
And I also put that I said, Santa, what I really want is to have waterfront. I
Right.
want to be on the water. And Santa, I don't mind a little bit of work, but I'd like it to be a super nice cottage. Now I'm in the zone of, depending on where it is and how much land comes with it, how much water frontage, but I'm in a different zone there, right? I'm beyond the 3-season kind of fixer-upper cottage. I'm into a different zone in terms of what I'm buying or what I want to purchase. So that'll jack up. That's where the big sort of increases come, is it not?
Yes.
Is that fair to say? When you want something
Ready, you want to walk right into it. You're talking about a 4-season place then.
Sure.
If you're going to kick it up, it'd be a 4-season cottage. It can still be on a pier foundation because it's very easy to get under a pier, as I've learned, and insulate underneath it. So in the
Wiring,
winter time,
all that stuff, yeah.
yeah. So, you're going to kick it up, but you can still find plenty of them between 400 and 500. But now you're right, you're into a different category.
Right.
But I still believe you can find something on the Ontario side. You may have to drive further.
Right.
My neighbor Jim's looking for a cottage, and he's willing to go 2.5 hours.
Does he need a realtor?
He does.
Oh.
He does.
Perfect. He's willing to go 2.5 hours.
He'll drive 2.5 hours.
I have clients who are talking about 2 hours is kind of their max, and an hour and a half would be perfect.
Hour and a half.
That's a nice drive,
It's a beautiful drive.
right? An hour and a half, that's enough.
I mean, if it's not on the 401, but I mean, if you're on a cottage within an hour and a half from Ottawa, it's a scenic route.
Mm-hmm.
I drive up the 105. I follow the Gatineau River, and I go through probably 7 or 8 cute little villages on the way.
Yeah.
You buy your
nice.
beans in one place. The woman over here has great chili. It's an experience.
Yes.
It's a nice drive.
Yeah, it's part of what you're doing,
Part of what you're doing.
right? The popularity of the cottage has kind of followed the way the market has drifted, and certainly since COVID, and certainly since the Ottawa market at least has changed. The popularity and the price of cottages have gone up exponentially.
It's gone up.
Right?
Yeah.
There's no question about that, because much like the home on 2 acres just outside of the city, it has become super popular because people have discovered through necessity and other means that they are more mobile, they're more transferable, they can do a lot of things from outside of the traditional workplace. And that includes for them being able to go to the cottage in the summertime and work from there.
People learn a hard lesson the summer of 2020, or they discovered a lot about themselves. Jimmy next door, I'll use him as an example. He's a cottage renter.
Good old Jimmy.
Good old Jimmy.
I like that his name's Jimmy.
Yeah. He rents a cottage. Him and his wife, they've got 2 young kids. They've rented a cottage. Well, in the summer of 2020, no cottage. We were all shut down. Nobody got to go to their cottages.
Couldn't rent it, couldn't.
People
go
didn't
to it?
want to rent. They were worried about COVID and transfer. It's at a time when we didn't know as much as we do now.
Right.
So now Jimmy has said, I just don't want that to happen to us again going forward.
Right.
So we're going to start looking at buying. I think he'll end up buying within 2 hours. Most people will.
I think that's a reasonable expectation.
Toronto, they'll drive 3 or 4 hours.
Oh yeah. 2 hours is nothing.
Well, I would too, to get out of Leaf Country, but that's a whole other topic that we'll discover in January.
This is like
Well-
I thought you'd be talking about football since you're dressed like the Red Blacks mascot.
Yeah,
But
that's a
you'd
good point.
rather
I never even thought about
you'd
that.
rather talk about your.
Yeah, they had a wonderful year, didn't they?
Just saying.
I know. Hey, man. I'm from the Ronnie Stewart, Whit Tucker, Russ Jackson era when we would win back-to-back.
The point I think we're
Yep.
trying to make here today is that if you have enough equity and the wherewithal, and you go through, an examination of your finances, and a cottage is something you feel is attainable, and so on,
Yeah.
there are lots of options out there for people to explore.
There are, and
Because not all the cottages are purchased, by the way. There are still lots out there.
oh my gosh. Yeah, well, which brings me to a point I'd like to make. Generally, it's about realtors and how they work. Realtors who specifically specialize in rural cottage recreational properties.
Yes.
Now, you have to appreciate this if you're a member of the public when you're dealing with a realtor who specializes in this area. Kurt can have a client looking for a townhome in Canada, and Kurt might put on 10 kilometers in a night to show half a dozen townhomes, correct? If you're in
Okay.
Bridlewood,
Yeah.
you're driving around the block to show the
Right.
next one.
Right.
So realtors who are, and on the Quebec side especially, and here as well, I have more experience on the other side. They tend to want to show their own properties, and they're not as enthusiastic about getting somebody in their vehicle and having to put 200 kilometers in a day on the vehicle, driving through bush, et cetera, et
Oh,
cetera.
no.
So my tip for any buyer, and this is where a lot of good values are found, and it may take away a deal from a realtor, but there are many, many cottages. If you have an area that you're interested in, pack your kids or leave them with friends or the grandparents, pack a picnic basket, and go for a drive on a really nice Saturday or Sunday and turn off all the roads, maybe get lost to where you're going.
You're not specifically looking for cottages that are for sale, but you're looking for areas and things that are attractive to you.
And you're going to see many signs tacked up by homeowners that are offering their cottages for sale, but they're not on the MLS market. And
Right.
a lot of them, because let's face it, a lot of cottages get sold
Right.
by word of mouth.
Yes.
One neighbor will tell another neighbor. Grandparents know their kids want to buy. They'd love to have them have the cottage right next door.
Mm-hmm.
That's how many of them get. If you see somebody walking their dog down a dirt road going in, stop, have a talk with them. Say, do you know we love the area. Do you know anyone who may be considering selling?
It's an awesome way to also get information about the area you're in if you're unfamiliar with it.
Yeah.
People say, "Oh, you got to go up here and have a look around here." Stop and talk to somebody who's local,
Absolutely.
and you will get more information than you ever expected about the area, cottages, and so on
Oh,
and so on
boy.
and so on.
The little corner store
Yeah.
that anybody. And then when
The
you
place
find
where
somebody,
they sell beer, right?
place where they sell beer,
Just
yeah.
go in there.
Just go in there. And fishing licenses.
Right.
You'll get all the
Worms
info.
and the like.
Yeah. But if you do find a place and you're not then phone your realtor and have them do the deal. I mean, it's not.
And listen, good realtors are not afraid to refer your business for a cottage should they be unfamiliar with the idea of finding a cottage for you, or it's outside their zone, or if your realtor feels you would be better served by referring you to a realtor in that specific area, that's a good realtor because they understand their limitations and they understand that that's not their field. So passing you on and hooking you up with a realtor who is, like you say, specifically zeroed in on cottages and that's their business, that's not a bad thing.
Oh, no. Not a bad thing at all.
No, I personally love the idea of going looking at cottages with my clients. That is not to say that if I'm unfamiliar with the area and so on and so forth, I won't just say, hey, you need to talk to this realtor, and they are more equipped to help you in searching for what you're looking for.
Well,
but I'd like to come look because it's fun.
Well, it's fun. And local knowledge is invaluable, too. And And don't be, don't shy away from doing some work. I'll promise you this.
You enjoy it, eh? Like it's,
I learned. Well, you know what I learned though? Something I had never done was plumbing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Did you
and
learn stuff about plumbing?
I had to replumb the cottage, and I got to tell you, I'm not, I can cut a 2x4, but I did have a friend up there, and that PEX plumbing,
Yes.
anybody, not copper plumbing.
No.
Boy, I got to tell you, it's easiest stuff. We plumbed my whole place. As a matter of fact, it was so easy to do. We installed an outdoor shower 50 feet from the cottage, and I did it all myself. It's a
With
no-brainer.
running water,
Running water, hot water.
drawn from the lake.
Drawn from the lake, through the pressure tank, through the jet pump into the hot water tank, up to the shower.
Like I said, folks,
Phew,
if I get an invite to this cottage
he's invited
for
in.
Christmas,
You heard me say there's a lockbox on
That-
it. He can go anytime.
that
he wants.
would be, to me, the greatest gift of all.
Yeah, I think he's a bit of a New York guy, though, and I'm not sure he could use an outhouse, even though it's heated in the
Listen,
winter
I'm
time.
from the Bay, my son. I know how to use an outhouse, believe me.
I knew that was coming the minute I said New York.
I'm right from the Bay.
You want to, where's the bay?
Newfoundland,
Of course.
right? I'm
Yeah.
right from the middle of nowhere.
Speaking of,
Yes?
because we digress often, this is going to run over a little bit, but this has been a fun one.
We're over time.
I watched Canada Unplugged or something. It's a documentary on Canada. I watched it 2 days ago,
Yes?
and I don't, I feel I know Canada. They started from the East Coast to the West Coast.
Right?
I learned more about Canada in under 90 minutes, and the people. It was on over
Listen,
Christmas.
Yeah, I hear over and over about, and we'll talk about this
Yeah.
some other time, but I hear over and over about the, East Coasters and how friendly they are. Listen, I've lived out west.